Welcome, listeners, to the, I'm going to say relaunch of the Polandball podcast. We did this a while back ago when the channel was really small, only like a couple of thousand subscribers. But now that we're getting closer and closer to that 500,000 of viewers and listeners and whatnots, we thought it would be a cool idea to bring the podcast back, to let all of you guys out there, get to know us behind the channel a bit better and listen to us sort of like chat about ourselves and current events and in a more sort of adult setting from just, the cartoons. And that could be cool for you. That could be interesting. That could be something that you enjoy listening to. So with that in mind, for this first episode, we have me, DickRhino, one of the people behind this channel, and we also have Koleye.
Hey there.
Yeah, who does most of our live streaming and all of the voice acting for our shorts as well, and Aaron.
Hello.
There we go. And Aaron is the guy who makes I'm gonna say 95% of all of the art that you see in our videos. Is that a good number?
It's probably higher.
Yeah, I'd say that's about accurate.
So, I was going to start this out by just throwing the mic around a bit to just do a little just catching up, because you might not know this, viewers, but we have a pretty solid working relationship here on the channel. Like we live in different countries, right? I'm in Sweden, Koleye is in the US, Aaron is in Canada. So we have a fairly we talk a lot on the internet. We chat with each other online, and we have our different projects we work on. But sitting down like this in voice chat and just catching up with each other and just chit-chatting about whatever is not something that we do particularly often. So this is sort of like a catch-up session for us as well.
Yeah, I kind of miss voice chatting with you guys, to be honest.
Yeah, it's different from just texting each other all day on Discord.
I guess we've sort of just fallen into a routine of that's how we work. So I figured this could be good in that regard as well, to just sort of catching up as old friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were the big three 10 years ago. More than that now. 12 years ago. Yeah,
when it all got started on the subreddit. Because when I say old friends, it's the three of us have been doing Polandball for forever now. It's sort of interesting in that when we first started out with Polandball, we're talking 2011, 2012, 2013, that era. I think 2012. By then, Polandball had already existed for 3 years, right? It started in 2009 and it existed on CrowdChat or whatever. Even back then, there was this sort of reverence toward it when I showed up, where it's oh, well, I can't go in and muck about too much with this because it has all of this history and it has all of these traditions, and me as a newcomer, I have to respect all of that. By then, it already felt like this sort of established, pillar or whatever, and then it had only existed for 3 years. And now looking back on it, whereas the three of us have been doing Polandball for way longer than that, right? We have been involved in it for most of the existence of the medium itself.
Yeah, Aaron pulled up an interesting statistic from the subreddit, and you guys can help me interpret the data. So the Polandball subreddit uses an approved submitter system, which means that you have to pass a sort of test. The mods have to deem you an acceptably decent artist and cartoonist, writer, before you can start posting your own comics on the subreddit. And I was the 28th person, or 29th person, I think, to gain submission rights on that subreddit.
Yes.
Back in 2012 or 2011, something like that. And I asked Aaron if he could see if anyone in the previous 28 ahead of me were still active in Polandball in the subreddit to some extent. only one person was semi-active as a commenter, like in comment sections, but no one else was actually still actively making cartoons. So I am going to sort of anoint myself as the oldest still active Polandball artist in the world. I don't know if that's true, but my heart tells me that it is.
I mean, that's fair. And I was the 68th, and DickRhino was 104th, I think. And Chicken Scuttle Monkey, you know, the guy who sings 2 Days into Belgium, very talented, behind all of the original tracks we hear, he was number 202. And it sounds like a big number, but I think we're at like, I can't even imagine. I think it's something like 5,000, 6,000 people.
Yeah. Several thousand. You know what's funny? I'm going through the list now of like just approved submitters, and it's like I'm 5 years back in the archives. And it's like, oh, 5 years ago, call me Ezekiel.
There you go.
That name just popped up here. Yeah. Everyone passes through the subreddit at one point or another. Anyone who's your favorite countryballs people on YouTube, your favorite Polandballers. Odds are good that they started out by posting comics in the subreddit. That's what we all did. But we have we're not just Polandballers. We have lives outside of the channel as well, don't we?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah. No, we're old farts compared to most of our viewership, I'm gonna say, because we had, you know, hey, that's how it works, people. If we've been doing this for like 12 years now, you know what that means? That means we're old.
It'll happen to you.
It'll happen to you. You're cool now. You got it. You know what it is. But one day, what it is will be strange and unknown to you.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal joining the subreddit at 17 years of age, and now I'm like 30.
There you go. Yeah, you recently turned 30, and it was I've come to understand that it was a traumatic experience for you.
Yeah, I think I hid in my basement for about a week and cried and just had a crisis.
You did have a crisis. That was like, it was very obvious when I was chatting with you back then, like, because like I'm older than that, and it was so different for me, right? Because when I turned 30, I sort of just, you know, felt happy and positive about it, because I turned 30 and I had been dreading it a bit beforehand. Because I was like, oh, I can't tell people that I'm in my 20s anymore, and it sounds so youthful to say that I'm in my 20s. And I'd been riding that one for a long time. Of like, just, you know, when I was 29, I was like, yeah, I'm 20 something. But then I turned 30, and I realized that like, oh, I don't feel any different. I still feel sort of like, you know, spry and youthful. It's just that like I don't have the existential angst anymore of trying to figure out who I am, because I spent my 20s doing that and making every mistake you're supposed to make. So I just felt sort of like cool and chill about the whole thing, and it was just nice. But that was not your experience, I've come to understand.
No, it wasn't. I hated it.
Tell me about it.
It might just be a European thing, but part of me thinks Europeans grow older quicker. I was attached to my youth. I don't know how else to describe it without sounding like a child. I really enjoyed every single day from being 17 to 29, and I was traveling the world. I was going to all these parties. I was having all this fun. And then all of a sudden I'm 30 and I'm settled down into a career, and I have a girlfriend who's harassing me to have a kid and buy a house and do all this kind of shit. I don't know.
Is it just like was it like a feeling of like, I'm not ready?
No, 100% it was. Like, it's really difficult to describe, honestly. Yeah, I don't think I was ready. And now I am making all these big decisions, and I do feel capable. And I know it'll turn out well, but there's just a little part of me that still wants to, you know, drive off into the forest with all of my friends and have a big bonfire and just live life like you're, you know, fresh out of high school partying with your university friends. I don't know. People grow up slow here, I notice.
Yeah, but you don't want to be like that, Matthew McConaughey character of just, the guy who's in his 30s who still goes to high school parties, right? You don't want to be that guy.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I have somebody I plan to marry, and she is very much mature, and we're moving forward with the picket fence and buying a house and having a dog and all that sort of thing. So it's happening. It's just, I don't know. I feel like my 20s felt like they were only 2 years. And then all of a sudden,
right,
you're a real adult. Like, I know 18-year-olds are adults, but they're not really adults. But now I am.
Careful. People might get upset for you saying that. No, it's fine. Look, it's the way I see it. I think you always like look at your past with like rose-colored glasses. Where when I look back at my like the tail end of my 20s, it was already to the point where people had started settling in. You had your group who went out partying, but people dropped off from that group, right? That group became smaller and smaller. And as I grew older, going out and doing the party thing, whatever, it sort of gave me less and less satisfaction for every year. And I don't think it was that I was like regretting anything or felt like it was stupid or whatever. It was more like I felt like I was done with it. Like I'd spent my entire 20s doing that, and I was like, okay, I want to see what more there is to life. I want to take on some new challenges now. Because I think, like, in my head, it would be like, oh, if you didn't do those things, if you didn't have your wild 20s with the parties and the travels and the whatnots, then you could, ostensibly sort of like have regrets and be like, oh, I'm not ready, or like, oh, I wish I could have done this, I wish I could have done that. But if you did do all of that stuff, that was the case for me. Then I was just like, oh, it just feels sort of nice to just slide into my 30s, just transition into that sort of kind of more adult version of myself.
No, I'm inclined to agree. When I visited you, I was 30. And I think that trip to Denmark and Sweden that I took, where I had a lot of fun. When I came home, I was kind of thinking, okay, I'm ready now. Like, that was fun. That's probably the last international trip I'll ever take where I'm having the best time of my life now. I guess I'm ready to have kids and pay a mortgage and all that.
That was it. That was the last time I'll ever have fun.
Hey, you saw me in the last days of my youth.
That is fun. What about you, koleye? How do you feel about coming into age?
I did not have any qualms about turning 30 because I felt the same I felt the same on day 364 being 29 as I did on day 1 of being 30. Polandball is now a big part of our lives, with the channel becoming substantially large over the past couple of months.
Yeah, it's that's been sort of like a we say it every day, but like it still doesn't feel real, like how fast it's grown, right?
Yeah,
I don't even know how many subscribers we have anymore.
Yeah, I stopped counting. I don't know, like 200,000 or something.
Yeah, we're at 430,000 now. I opened the show by saying that like we're racing toward that 500,000.
Yeah, I think, to sort of explain this to people who might not have been in a situation like this, where you have a social media account or a YouTube channel that sort of becomes popular. The strange thing to me is that I'm not doing anything differently from what I was doing before the channel became popular, right? I was editing videos, I was voice acting, I was drawing, and I'm still doing that, right? It's not like you're an actor or something and you're going in physically to more places because you've made it big now, right? It's with content creation, because it's online, it's digital, there's no there's no physical difference between my life now as it was, 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, whenever we sort of started the channel. I don't know if you guys feel similarly, but that's what makes it feel not very real to me, is the fact that it hasn't really led to any sort of physical changes in my life. I'm just doing the same things that I was before. It's just more people are watching us now,
There's an element of anonymity to it. Not as much for, you do a lot of live stream and we have the webcam on or whatnot. But it's not like actual celebrity status, right? It's not like we get recognized in the street.
Correct.
And but maybe, that depends on how big the channel is gonna get. I talked to you guys before about this. I told you that quote where it's like, hey, what's better than being rich and famous? Being rich.
Yep.
Yeah, because I enjoy that. I do enjoy my privacy and actually just still being able to do all of the things that I always do.
One thing I thought was cool was, we made that hockey short about Russia doping and getting kicked out of international tournaments. And I slipped in a little reference there on Canada's helmet. I put the Winnipeg Jets logo on Canada's helmet because I'm a Jets fan. And I posted that video to the Winnipeg Jets subreddit. And a whole bunch of people were like, holy shit, you're the one behind the Polandball Official channel? Oh my god.
Yeah, it'll happen more and more often. I remember when Polandball comics were like at their peak of like being spread around the internet. My big sort of claim to fame there was an acquaintance of mine sharing one of my comics with me, and he didn't know that I was the one who had made it.
Yeah, I remember also back in like the heyday of the Polandball subreddit's sort of explosive growth. So like maybe 2013. I was playing Counter-Strike and someone recognized me for my comics on Reddit. Interestingly, that's also happened in the past couple of months when I've played Counter-Strike. Some people recognize me from the channel now, not from my comics on the subreddit. So that happens every now and then.
So the question is, should we switch to just, being VTubers and hiding our real faces?
I think I'm the only one who's not done a face reveal.
I think there's something to be said for having a face for any sort of YouTube channel. I see, VTubing is a thing and people do like it, but we're artists, right? And there's nothing wrong with sort of putting a face and a name to an artist. I think it helps make it more real for people.
And no offense, you're a pretty good looking guy. Most of the time I look haggard and I have very messy hair.
No, I think you're too hard on yourself in like every aspect.
This is something that we constantly have to tell Aaron to stop beating himself up.
Last time I sent a selfie, koleye told me I looked like Justin Bieber.
You had a Justin Bieber haircut.
No, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure you did.
All Canadians look like Justin Bieber.
So all Canadians are hot, is what you're saying?
There's nothing wrong with it. He seems like a relatively good dude now, considering like all the stuff that he had to go through, like stardom at a young age and, being sexualized by older women when, you're still a teenager.
Yeah, no, I watched that collab video of all the times Justin Bieber was sexually harassed when he was under 18, and it was kind of disturbing.
I don't know. I feel like we're just getting off topic. I think we just need to talk about the videos and geopolitics. So, I have a question for you guys. What is your favorite music video that we've made? We've made about, maybe 5 or 6?
Yeah, I could rank them if you want.
Go for it. And then we can put them up on screen in the for the
Number
podcast.
1 has to be 2 Days into Belgium. Always will be my favorite. Number 2, Kosovo. Love it. Amazing. I've probably watched it 18 times since we made it. Number 3, Red Comic Club. Number 4, Goodbye to Gravity. And the last one is The Land of the Rising Sun. I thought that one was good, but it just didn't hit for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with your rankings.
I would probably disagree because I put Red Comic Club as number 1. I just think it's a fantastic rendition. Just from a pure musical perspective of like what it brings to the table, I think it's CSM's best work so far. I know that everyone always puts like 2 days into Belgium first, and obviously like it's the biggest hit, and it's like it blew up, and all the kids love it. but I don't know. I just read Comic Club. He really, really knocked it out of the park, especially with his singing as well in that song.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the guitar solo by Czechoslovakia is absolutely awesome. That's one of my favorite things I think ever made in Polandball, was the second guitar solo in that song during the outro.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, what about your favorite shorts? So the main content that we tend to put out are shorts. We do a short every single day. It's become a part of people's routine. We've put out, I think, DR, you were saying, close to 300 shorts. And that's a result of doing at least one every single day. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 days in the past 300 days or something we might have missed. But we've doubled up on a few days, especially recently. In like the past 2 weeks, we've probably had like 3 or 4 days where we've done 2 each. So given that, we have so many of these shorts now, I'm curious, DR, your top 3 are, and Aaron, what your top 3 are. And then I can talk about my top 3.
Oh, top 3! I even looked up, so I could do more than 3 if it came to that. But I'm gonna say one that I love is Generosity, the one with Norway literally drowning in money, not knowing what to do with it, and not feeling fulfilled. And seeing that, like, you can find fulfillment in life by helping some poor and underprivileged person or whatever. So he donates money to Sweden. That was great because it's very relatable to me, because we have a lot of these internal rivalries between the Nordic countries. It's all done, friendly and like jokingly. It didn't used to be. we used to just go to war with each other constantly throughout history. Sweden and Denmark, we used to hate each other with a passion, and Norway got caught up in a lot of these wars as well. But ever since like the 1800s or so, it's been altered to like this culture of like Nordic camaraderie, and now it's like we have unified legislature, we have police cooperation over the borders, and we have free trade, and we had open borders even before the EU or whatever between the Nordic countries. So we're super friendly with each other, and our languages are distinct enough to where we can sort of understand each other mostly as well. So instead, now it's just ribbing. Now it's just friendly ribbing instead of going to war with each other, which is, I guess, a step up. And we do joke about each other, and when we have established various stereotypes with how we view each other. And traditionally, Norway has been the idiots. They are the ones who the jokes have been that Norwegians are stupid. And I don't know what the origin of that is, but that has been the case. At the same time, we're jealous of them because they have all of the oil, so they're like just filthy rich. Sweden has been, I think everyone just thinks that we're gay. It's like Sweden is like the metrosexual country. But yeah, Norway does like to rub in our faces that they have much more money than we do.
I've never seen anybody more well-dressed than Swedish people. And I've been to France.
Well, everything about France is overrated, so that tracks.
It hurts me right in my my love for French culture, but I get it. Yeah, so Generosity is based on an old comic of mine.
Yes. That
I've always held dear as well, because that was one of the first high-effort art comics that I made. I drew, I think, a Ferrari. I forget what model it was, but there was a Ferrari in there. There's a wheelbarrow full of cash, and then there's a famous fjord in Norway that I drew as the background.
Yeah, no, I remember that comic, and the backgrounds with the Norwegian fjords and nature and scenery is like, it's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, Norway is near the top of my list of places that I would like to travel. So yeah, that turned out really well. Aaron redrew elements of that comic. I think you used the background that I had drawn. Is that correct?
Yeah, I took your original background and I resized it.
Yeah, that was It was good. It was very faithful to the original. So what are your next two?
I'm gonna say the zoo. The zoo is a real fun one. And mostly why I like that one is probably the animal drawings, and because I'm a sucker for animal drawings in Polandball comics. There are a couple of, like, you know, Francis Camel. It's like an old comic from like 12 years ago or something, which was one of the first one of like just doing these stupid, wacky cartoon drawings of camels, which just got super funny. I drew a comic called like African Evil, where I drew like a stupid, dumb-looking, big, roided out lion.
I was gonna mention that.
Yeah, the roid lion. There's also Chasing the Dream, the comic where that I recently turned into an animation on the channel. The pig that Ukraine's running around with is also like real goofy drawn.
Yeah, that's a great drawing.
Thank you. So I like that. I know that there are like these Polandball artworks that have like these hyper realistic animals or whatever, and I always feel like they look a bit out of place. Another thing that I'm sort of weirded out by is, but probably works better, but I've seen a lot of people draw comics with animals and they just draw animal balls. So you have like USA ball, and it has as a pet like a cat ball.
That's something it's been done in, I don't know like where it started, but it's very prominent in a game that I played on stream. What is it called? Polandball.
Balls to the wall. No, I remember you playing that, but I also don't remember.
Bang on Balls Chronicles. It's a Polandball themed game, and all of the animals in it are ball shaped as well. It's a very, very cool game, in the sense that I think it captures sort of like the physics of what you would expect Polandball to have, like the way that the balls move and squish and stuff. It's cool. I really like it, and that was one of the charming things I think that it did, was it made all these animals that exist in the game are ball shaped.
I watched a bit of that stream and I was like, oh, this game looks more well made than I would assume most like countryballs games would look like, because most are just like sort of one-person passion projects. But I was like, damn, this has some production values.
Yeah, it's a legit game. It's pretty good. So that's Bang on Balls Chronicles, if any of you are interested. I have to play it again on stream. I think I've only played it once, maybe twice.
Does it have like multiplayer? Could we like play against each other in that?
Yes, it does have multiplayer. It's co-op PvE, I believe.
Oh, that could be cool. That could be something we could do.
So, yeah, someone like from the live stream, I guess somehow found my game, was able to join. I don't even know how you can join other people, but they were hard carrying me through all the puzzles that I couldn't figure out because I'm stupid.
But we could do that. We could bang our balls together.
We could. Yep. I have. You could play as Sweden. You can choose your character, and I could play as the US. I could wear a helmet, space helmet, and you could wear your Viking horn helmet.
You know what really annoys me? My avatar that I use in Polandball stuff, which is Sweden with the Viking hat, that has become so well known that like all over the internet, that has become like the almost the one of the standard or default ways of depicting Sweden. Whereas like if you look at like people selling Polandball plushies, they don't sell Sweden, they sell DickRhino. It's like the Sweden with my Viking hat, just the way I drew it. And in video games, it's the same thing. It's not Sweden. It's fucking DickRhino's avatar. That's how Sweden is depicted. And I'm like, I should have trademarked that shit back in the day. Anyway, back to my point. The zoo.
So the zoo.
This is perfect. This is the stupid cartoony way of drawing animals that I think is just ideal for Polandball comics. So that one looks really charming and I like it.
Are you saying my art's stupid?
Yes, but in the right way.
Yeah, your art style has a very specific charm to it that a lot of artists fail to capture, I've noticed.
Thank you kindly.
And we were saying earlier that your artwork has become synonymous with the channel at this point. That when like DickRhino or I draw a short, or we adapt another artist's short or another artist's comic as a short, people don't like it as much because they're like, something's off about this. They changed the art style. Like, no, it's just, every now and then we find the bandwidth for someone other than Aaron to draw. But people have become so accustomed to your balls that they like seeing them more than others.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. No, and on that note, my third one is actually a short that I made, which is called Flötentöten. And yeah, it did not get as many views as our shorts usually do, and probably because it's like, oh no, this looks wrong. This is like, and it's not just the art; it's the voice acting as well. Because I voiced that one, I think. Yes. So it's like they're like, oh, this looks wrong. It sounds wrong. Did you change who's behind the channel or whatever? It's like that's typically what the comments are like. But yeah, I put a lot of effort into that one. I have done so for the shorts that I've made that they've had. I tried to like really go hard on like the animation qualities, but can't do that obviously if you're gonna do like a short every day. So I have that luxury of just being able to do like a short like this here and there as a passion project. But man, this one took a while. So it's 30 seconds long, but like it's many hours of work.
Oh yeah.
And then for very little payoff.
Yeah, for those of you who might be interested, I've said on stream before, because people have asked how long it takes to make a short, and the answer is that it depends, and it's very hard to know how long it takes to make it before we start making it. I think it's a little bit more straightforward to estimate how much time it takes to draw it. Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but generally, if something doesn't have a lot of detailed backgrounds, it's not going to take a long time to draw as compared to something that has a lot of detailed backgrounds. And then editing is a total crapshoot. There's no way of knowing. It's things that have a lot of sort of specific animations or swaps or a lot of different noises, or a lot of different characters that require a lot of different voice lines. Those will take a lot of time to make. But when I'm putting a short together, I don't know how long it's going to take until I start making it, and then I sort of get a sense like, oh, this is going to be a quick one, right? So generally, if it's like 5 or fewer lines of dialogue, and there's maybe like 15 panels or something, and there's no like real animating necessary, that can take like 30 minutes to an hour to actually edit. From putting the panels together, adding in the voice lines and sort of sound effects and stuff like that. Whereas something like You Just Can't Do It Too, which is one of our more recent shorts, that one had, I don't know, maybe like 40 or 50 panels. They all had very unique art assets, very detailed backgrounds. I think, Aaron, you mentioned it took something like 6 hours to draw all of that. And then similarly, it took me about 6 hours to edit all of that together. And that's a 35 or 36 second short. So 12 or so man hours went into making a 35 second short.
Yeah, like I think on my end, the most difficult short I've ever done was the original You Just Can't Do It, or the one about where Mongolia's submarine pops through the Earth.
Yes. What was that one called? Mongolia's Navy or something. Yeah,
that one took a long time.
I really like that one. This is something that I've really only been able to do with the channel because Aaron does 95 to 99% of the art on the channel. I feel like I'm able to write a lot more scripts than I otherwise would. So before we started this channel, I had a document that's maybe like 20 pages long, a Word document, with all of my ideas for comics that I've had over the past 10 plus years that I've just never gotten around to drawing because I'm a very slow drawer compared to Aaron. And so I wouldn't draw these things. I just didn't have the time. So now I feel like I can be a lot more creative and at least on the sort of the script writing and plot writing side. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is writing scripts for Mongolia. I really love the characterization of Mongolia that we have on the channel, where it's basically just like, the Golden Horde. They're sort of like an anachronistic empire that exists in the modern empire. They're still riding horses and, you know, using arrows and axes and stuff to invade like modern countries and stuff like that. And then I just really enjoyed being able to write for a country and a culture that I wouldn't have, you know, 10 years ago, because I just wouldn't have had the time to sit down and draw all of these.
And I must say, your writing is amazing. I notice I've kind of fallen off a little bit with writing. Like, I used to be making a comic every single day. When before the channel existed, I would post them to Reddit. But now I don't know what it is. Like, I just can't think of scripts. Like, I think the last original script I wrote was, well, there's one in the bank that we haven't done yet. I think the last original script I wrote was the Ozempic one, if I'm remembering correctly.
That was a good one. It did really well. We've done, I don't know, like 5 or 6 shorts, and then a full video about the whole Greenland, Denmark, US stuff. You can squeeze a lot of content out of such a stupid situation as, you know, the US threatening Denmark over Greenland, right? There's a lot of jokes to be made, and that's one of the reasons why I've always felt that Polandball is such a great medium, is that because it's geopolitical satire, it's an endless font of content. There's no way that you would ever be able to run out of ideas for a comic, an art piece, a short, a video. It's just, the sky's the limit, you know? You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree. And I gotta say, your Denmark voice is perfect. No, I'll hit you where it really hurts.
Yeah, I know. DickRhino. So since DickRhino is Swedish, he can do a Danish accent much better than I can. And we had an early short that featured Denmark and Greenland, or Denmark is like this colonial slave master, you know. And DickRhino provided the voice line for that, but oftentimes it's just easier for me to do all the voice lines without having to collaborate with other people. And so I just gave Denmark some stupid, vaguely Nordic accent, which I like doing, even if it's not, you know, accurate.
I was going to say that's not actually a Danish
no.
accent. It is funny, but it's not a Danish accent.
What are you talking about?
Hinga dinga flurga durga.
That is not what I sound like. Yeah. This is offensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters, countries for which I have no idea what their accents sound like. The predominant accent that's spoken, you know, by people in that country, and I'll just make something up, you know, like Poland is probably the best example. I have no idea how to do a Polish accent. I don't know what a Polish accent sounds like. So I just gave Poland sort of like a cutesy voice, and that's just his voice now, at least on our channel, you know.
Your Canada accent, in my opinion, is absolutely perfect. I
do love it. Voicing Canada is quite fun. So those were DickRhino's 3 favorite shorts. Aaron, what are your 3 favorites?
Okay. I'm going to leave out You Just Can't Do It, and I'm going to leave out the Afterlife series because, well, those are obvious. My favorite short, then, I have to say it's Timelines. First of all, I think it's hilarious, and second of all, I think that's where we really elevated our shorts.
Yes.
Like, that was the first one that seemed like advanced. Like, I know people will hear this and they're going to judge me, but I think Alaska Disaster kind of sucks. I'm ashamed that it's our best short, and I get it. It's prescient right now with like America trying to take Canada again. But as it stands now, it's not that good of a short. I looked into the folder I have, because I have a folder for every short, right?
Yeah.
Alaska Disaster, 10 images. That's it. 10 images.
Is it really only 10?
I think it's 10, maybe 12 at the most.
I have to go back and look at it.
That's yeah, crazy. It's sad. And I mean, like, whatever. It's okay, I guess. I just don't know why that one took off. But I think Timelines was when we went from Alaska Disasters to the zoo, or You Just Can't Do It. Like, that's where we really started elevating our quality. And also, I just really liked the joke. I thought it was hilarious. Harambe scratching his ass. Like, come on, that's funny.
Yeah, that's Timelines holds a special place in my heart too. I've always really liked that one. I think that, to me, the Harambe meme, as Harambe being like his death being sort of the seminal point in history where our timeline diverged from the good timeline. I just love that meme. We're 10 years on from that point. It still lives in my head rent free. The idea that if the zookeeper had not shot this gorilla, if that kid had not fallen into the gorilla's enclosure, that we'd be living in, the good timeline.
Yeah.
I've just always loved that meme.
Yeah, so I gotta say timelines. Then the next one, I will say NATO assembles. I don't know. I just really like the ones with that like list structure.
Yeah.
Like NATO assembles is, I don't know, just funny. Well, there's a whole bunch I like. Like I really like Bad Roads too.
Bad Roads is great.
Bad Roads is good. But yeah, I'll say NATO assembles. I think that one was entertaining. Especially with Canada like getting discounted, Aye, Captain.
So that one was based on a comic that you had made, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so a lot of our comics, or rather a lot of our shorts, are adaptations of comics that DickRhino, myself, Chicken Scuttle Monkey, or Aaron have made in the past. So oftentimes we'll get comments in the comment section of a short saying, oh, you took this from a Reddit comic, or I saw some other YouTuber cover this comic before. You guys are stealing it. Nope. We have been in the game so long that you guys have seen other content creators recycle our content first.
Yeah.
So we're doing adaptations of our old material in addition to brand new scripts, which are we probably have more original scripts now than adaptations of existing comics that we've written, right?
Yeah, I would say, it's probably at the very least a 50-50.
Democracy O's is the big one, right? Because that was like someone else did like a hugely popular YouTube animation of that.
Yeah. So Democracy O's is a personal favorite comic of mine that I think I wrote it and drew it in like 2014 or something. And I do remember it hit number 1 on the subreddit that day. It was very popular. It's a very dark humor. And other YouTubers have adapted it over the years, and then Aaron and I adapted it maybe a couple months ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Not even. I think it was probably like a month ago. I think that was.
I don't think it was that recently, but
yeah, no, I think it was probably December. I think you're right.
Yeah, so we made a couple of little edits to it. We added some lines for Japan. There's a little bit more exposition at the start where the U.S. is walking through the supermarket, and Aaron, if you guys are longtime viewers, or if you're eagle-eyed viewers, you'll notice that in a lot of the drawings, Aaron has references to older material or other content that we've put out. So you'll see the spray bottle that Canada uses to spray the US, or the UK uses to spray the US, on the shelf in the grocery store as the US is walking through it in Democracy. So there's a lot of little like Easter eggs that Aaron
I didn't even know I made that reference.
Yeah.
I just looked at a picture of a grocery shelf and copied it.
Yeah, well, he's walking through the aisle, and you have cereal, and then you have squirt bottles for whatever reason.
I like your version so much more.
Yeah. So the point is that there have been other YouTubers that have adapted our stuff, and it was more popular because it was on a bigger platform. YouTube is the biggest video sharing platform in the world, right? It's bigger than TikTok globally, and it's orders of magnitude bigger than Reddit, right? So even being big on Reddit is like peanuts compared to being big on YouTube.
Yeah.
So other people had seen other YouTubers' adaptation of my original work, and then we put out this adaptation a couple months ago, and it does really well. We were sort of expecting it to do well because it's a solid joke, and the comment section was invariably filled with people saying like, we ripped this off from another YouTuber. It's like, nope. If you go watch the video of a specific YouTuber, he shows the original comic that I drew and wrote at the end of his video, and he credits me. So people don't watch to the end of the video. Like, watch, the dude credited me.
No,
that's my favorite is hearing, Drew Durno wrote this. No, he did not.
But that's what people do. They swipe away when there's like 5 seconds left of the video.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we made a point when we started the channel to make almost entirely original content, because there are YouTubers out there are streamers out there, TikTokers, whatever, who basically just make a living off of other people's original work, right? So just about every single thing that you see on our channel, whether it's on a live stream a long form video or our shorts is basically original content. It's stuff that the four of us have come up with, or it's something for which we have the consent of the original author to feature on our channel. So whether it's a contest winner from one of our live streams, or people who enter the contest in the first place, or a short that's an adaptation of someone else's comic, we make sure we get permission from them first. The only exception is for like the oldest Polandball comics for which there is no known author. Yeah. We call them burned made in Polandball, sort of the Polandball community. Those are the only ones that like we can't credit the original author because no one knows who they are. But if that person were to come along and could prove that they were the original author, we would absolutely credit them.
Yeah, we don't believe in thievery here.
Yeah, that's again the biggest thing I think that stands out about our channel relative to most other sort of cartoon channels, I think, or sort of country ball channels on YouTube, is that it's almost entirely original content.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that's slightly vaguely unoriginal is that tug of war one, but at this point that's like,
well, it's an adaptation of a meme. We've done adaptations of memes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's sort of like our music videos, our parodies of existing songs. There's an element of not an element, I mean there is an element of, yeah, there's an element of originality to it, you know?
Oh no, I hope
it's a meme template that we use, and we adapted it into a short. I think that's fair game.
And when we adapt comics that haven't been written by the four of us, we make sure to give full credit, and like you said, we get their permission first.
Yeah, you know, it's like if we were to make a short about a chicken crossing the road, no one would say that we were stealing that joke from someone, you know, because why did the chicken cross the road it's like such a common joke. At that point, it's sort of like in public domain, right?
That being said, when it comes to tug of war, I'm perfectly fine with not crediting the originator of the meme template, because it's a terrible, terrible person.
Yes.
Yeah, F that guy.
So that was your second short. What was it we were talking about, Aaron? What was your short? Was it timeline? It was timelines. And...
No, my first one was timelines. My second one was NATO Assemble.
Right.
I'm going to say my third one is The Forces Assemble, where it makes fun of the Canadian military.
Yeah.
Airports online, sir.
That's a good one.
That's a really
Our one sub still fucked, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being biased, but I just like that one a lot. And that comic did really well. And I had a lot of fun drawing it, and I had a lot of fun when I made the original comic, like, I don't know, 3 years ago. And what's there to say about it? Yeah, the Canadian military is hilarious. Like
sometimes,
if only we had an air force of Canadian geese, maybe we could actually like stand up for ourselves. Even that's like wishful thinking. So
sometimes I think you can tell with comics that people make. Whereas like there are people who are like, they produce comics very frequently, you know, they pump them out regularly, and sometimes it sort of feels like, you know, they're going through the motions, or they just like, they have an idea and then they just push something out and don't think a whole lot more about it than that. But then you have some comics where you can it just oozes from it, like fun and joy, whereas like you can just tell that this person had fun making this.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to say that this comic is like definitely one of those.
Absolutely. And I think the depiction of the Canadian Air Force as a dude riding a goose and in a hot air balloon with a stick of dynamite attached to the bottom is just, it's so creative, and it's so unique to sort of Canadian stereotypes and fitting. It's just a brilliant comic. I've always loved that one too.
No, and my favorite was a whole bunch of Canadians roasting me in the comments, being like, don't you know that 100 years ago we made the Germans pay for every bit of land they took, and we invented war crimes, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, I'm Canadian, I understand, but why are you bragging about stuff that happened like 100 years ago? I know anytime you diss the Canadian military, you always have these Canadian teenagers who are like, don't you know that we punished the World War I Germans?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. That was 100 years ago. It's not the same case anymore.
This segues into a more salient point that we were discussing a little bit earlier before we started recording, which is one of the things that's always bothered me about the Polandball or country ball sort of community is that there's a lot of people out there that are okay with laughing at other countries, but when we make a joke, or anyone in the Polandball community makes a comic that makes a joke about their country, then they get defensive and upset, right? Like, to me, Polandball, no country is off limits. No culture is off limits. No people, no part of history, none of it, right? Like, there's humor to be found in every aspect of existence, and getting defensive when someone makes fun of your country that's not a problem with the author, that's a you problem, right? Like, that's a problem with, not having very thick skin or not being terribly introspective, right? Like, it's totally fine to laugh at your country, right? I'm American. We depict the US as fat and lazy and stupid and arrogant all the time. And it's totally fine because, like, it's just a cartoon at the end of the day, right? And it's satire, right? Satire is supposed to be biting. It's not supposed to sort of pull punches, right? Like, if you truly loved your country and you wanted what was best for it, you would recognize sort of the worst aspects of your country, its history, its culture, its government, Otherwise, how are you going to improve? If you can't recognize that you have a problem, either in your personal life or your country has a problem, how could you possibly improve, right?
See, I have a sort of different take on it, a more sort of philosophical take on it. Whereas, like, for me, humor brings the world together. Like, I firmly believe that. It's like sharing of your own country in a way where it's like you invite people to laugh, right? You make a joke out of it. It's like, it's unifying. It creates connections. It creates friendships or whatever. And the whole idea of, like, no, don't joke about this, don't make fun of this. It's sort of like, it makes the world smaller, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree too. And I've always said, like, it would be fun in games if all of the time we just made fun of the US, China, Russia, Germany, Britain. But that's not the case. We have to make fun of everybody. And I have a saying, it's nothing personal, it's just your turn.
That's a very poignant saying. I'm going to steal that. That's mine now.
Yeah, I like it. I'm also going to steal it.
Like, I noticed that with the Romanian short, where the Romanians stole the Russian boat and Germany was, like, harassing them about it, and then said, oh, well, it's a Russian oligarch's boat, so you can steal it. And there was a whole bunch of Romanians in the comments saying, oh, I loved your channel, but now you're just saying Romanians are thieves. Okay, but we can call Canadians pussies and incompetent. We can call Americans fat and lazy. We can call Swedish people gay. We can call Russians barbarians. We can call, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's
more to it. It's like these... Polandball is not, necessarily a depiction of a culture or a people. It's more often the country and the stereotypes of the country. It's not like any individual person in that country, right? No one is like the holotype of their ethnic group or their nationality. Their nationality is a better word, right? Like, there is no, like, this person represents all of America, right? That person just doesn't exist, right? Like, it's these are caricatures, right? That's why it's satirical, So getting bent out of shape when your country is the butt of a joke is a you problem. That's not an us problem. That's not the author's problem, right? Now, obviously, there are ways to make insensitive or inappropriate or unacceptable kinds of jokes. And I think it's very easy in geopolitical satire to sort of not know where that line is.
Yes.
But when you have, a decade plus worth of experience doing these kinds of comics like we have, you sort of know where that line is, right? Like, there are some things that it's unacceptable to sort of show in a good light, right? Like Nazism. There's no reason you should ever show that in a good light, right? Like, the most evil regime in human history, there's no reason to ever sort of, pretend like it wasn't anything but abject evil, right? So making a comic that sort of belittles the crimes that were committed by some of history's most heinous individuals is not acceptable.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And when I first got into Polandball, I initially got into it because I really liked the medium, but I was a teenager back then. And I really got upset and butthurt that people were dissing Canada. How could you dare to diss Canada? I was thoroughly upset. So I had to make a bunch of comics that, promoted Canada, made Canada look really good. And now I think of all the comics that make fun of Canada, I probably have created the best ones.
Yeah. Now, if CSM was here, he would share the anecdote about how he was way into like the whole "don't mess with Texas" thing before, and like would write paragraphs upon paragraphs of like how dare you make fun of Texas? Now you went too far.
Yeah. If I could proselytize a little bit to, you know, any viewers who might be impressionable enough to listen to what I have to say. Your country is not important compared to humanity, right? Like, it's totally cool for all of us to sort of rib on each other because we're all human beings. Collectively, we all can claim ownership of every country, every history on the planet, and throughout history. You know, like, this is humanity. We're humans. Like, this is us, right? Like, there are dark chapters in human history, and there are bright chapters in human history, and this is, you know, we dabble in geopolitical satire, which touches on both the good and the bad, and it's totally fine to feel like, or rather, I would go so far as to say people should sort of feel like my sort of first and foremost allegiance, for lack of a better term, is to humanity and not to like my country, my religion, my town, my state. You know, it's like, you should care about your fellow man first and foremost, and what's best for them, and not what's best for your country.
Also, I'm gonna say, like, for your own sake, because that sentiment of, you know, oh, keep politics out of Polandball. When we get those comments, we're like, what? No, how these are geopolitical satire comics. All of it's political, but it's code, right? When someone says, oh, I used to like your stuff, but now it's getting too political, like, or like keep politics out of it. They always say it in regard to their own country. What they're actually saying is, you were saying something that I disagree with, and I don't want to hear it.
Yep, it's closed-mindedness.
And
yeah,
you're closing yourself off, and you're just saying, I don't want to hear it, and that's basically the same as just shutting off your brain.
I liked it when you were making fun of Mexico and France, but now that you're making fun of me, that's a bridge too far.
Well, I'm just saying that it's going to make you stop growing as a person if you are like that, and if that's your reaction to things that you don't agree with, that you just close yourself off and just don't even want to listen to it.
Yep,
it's bad for you.
Yeah, you know, the older I get, the more I notice that there are people out there who just sort of stop growing intellectually, emotionally, you know? And it's sad to see, because the individual human being has such massive potential. To see it be unrealized by people because of apathy or inaction or a lack of ambition is sad, you know?
Yeah, and it's sad for the rest of us too.
Yes.
Because these people still get to vote.
Well, and it seems like people can't overcome an emotional response. Like, I joined Polandball over an emotional response of Canada getting shit on when I was in high school. And I grew up, and I sort of just learned that eventually, well, how to say this, like, satire is satire. Like, initially I didn't understand what it was. I saw Canada getting made fun of, and I lost my mind. And that's the whole reason I started with Polandball. I was like, oh, they're spreading anti-Canadian propaganda when we're the best country in the entire world. So I'm going to make comments about Canada being the best country in the entire world. And then as I started to make comics about Canada, I started researching Canada, and I started to realize, holy shit, maybe we're not the best country in the world. And then I started making comics making fun of Canada, and now I'm getting roasted by Canadians who had my previous mindset, which is a funny full circle type thing.
Do you feel like empathy for them because you used to be like that yourself, or are you just like, shut up, idiot?
I don't know what I feel right now. With the whole annexation thing going on, there's a lot of Canadian patriotism going on, and I don't really want to shut them down. Like, I was upset about Canada getting roasted back in the good times when Obama was in charge, and we were worried about getting invaded, and Russia was not invading Ukraine. Like, everything was kind of at peace in a way. Like, not really, but a little bit. So nowadays, I won't really shut them down, but I don't know. It's tough. There's a tough political situation going on here.
Oh yeah.
So what you're saying is that you have reverted back to don't mess with Canada.
Oh yeah. I mean, you saw the messages in Discord I posted of Canadian geese standing on top of dead bald eagles.
So your third one was so remind me again, your top 3 favorite shorts. It was Timelines,
NATO Assemble, and the Forces Assemble. So now it's your turn.
Okay. I like this. I like how, every time we're talking about the shorts, it sort of brings us into a related but still tangential subject. So my personal favorite short right now is You Just Can't Do It Too. And I feel like it's kind of an obvious answer, but I think it's chock full of sort of subtle jokes. It's a sequel, but it's a standalone as well. Like it works as a standalone joke, or a standalone sort of story. I love the artwork in it. I love the characterization that we've come up with for Mongolia, and just the absurdity of Mongolia invading Japan on the back of seahorses and then, destroying a vending machine. Is just, I don't know. It's so absurd that I love everything about it. And I had mentioned on stream to people who watched that one of the things that blows my mind is, Aaron, your ability to basically draw exactly what I imagined in my head. With You Just Can't Do It Too, basically every single scene was exactly how I imagined it in my head without putting pen to paper or mouse to screen. It was just wild to see you sort of produce something that I feel like I had already thought of,
I think I have a very good idea of what you're aiming for at this point.
So that's my personal favorite right now. I'm a sucker for Mongolia as a character right now, and I like writing for Mongolia.
It resonated with our viewers as well. It's like our best performing short since rebranding, which was like a month ago.
And even that one kind of it popped off late, like after like 4 days.
Yeah, the YouTube algorithm is very strange. Hard to know what it's going to do.
Yeah, because initially that one was like a 5 out of 10 when it first released, and then like 4 days later it like exploded.
Yeah, but that's something we've talked about time and time again internally. Of like, we have no idea in advance like what's gonna be a success or not. The YouTube is literally just you throw things against the wall and just see what sticks.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we've also felt like for a while that, we generally know how to make a good short, a good comic. If we didn't, then we wouldn't still be doing this, 13 years later.
Sometimes you get a hunch. Sometimes you like know in advance. It's like, oh, I'm pretty sure this one's gonna do well. When you you had a good idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna tempt fate here and say tomorrow. We're recording this on a Saturday. Tomorrow is Sunday. That Sunday has historically been probably the best day for viewership of our shorts. I think it's probably just the best day for views on YouTube in general. But tomorrow we have Parenting 4 coming out, and I suspect it will do well, knock on wood. But it's possible it won't, but it's part of a relatively popular series that we've been doing, and it's got a solid joke in it, and it's going to be on a Sunday. So we feel like we can tell with this one that it will do pretty well, but who knows? Maybe I'll be eating crow tomorrow.
We'll see. No, I love the parenting ones. I almost had that in my top 3. The parenting ones are fantastic, all of them. But also sort of like originally based on like a comic of yours.
Yes, the first 2 were based on. They're basically 1-for-1s of the comics I had drawn. Parenting 1, Parenting 2. These are comics that feature Germany and France as parents of the European Union, which is historically relatively accurate. If there were any one country that could sort of claim to be, the main sort of driver behind the European Union and its preceding institutions, it's France, and less so Germany. But, modern sort of European politics and the European Union has been dominated more by Germany than France. But in the early days, before German reunification, France was very much the main driver and the main power in the European Union. But that being said, like those are the two most obvious countries to use as the parents for the EU, and it fits well having France sort of often characterized as a more feminine character to be the mother, and then Germany as the more masculine character. It's like still very militarist and like, you know, sort of defined by its militarist past. I think it makes for a good friction between those two characters, and then the impressionable EU.
It's the sort of thing of like, you know, we're not afraid of it anymore because now Germany is sort of like they're not crazy anymore. But you know, for a long time it was like,
well, tomorrow's is the German election, right? Yeah. So we'll see.
As of recording this, yes, it hasn't happened yet, but don't spook me like that. But yeah, but yeah. Other than that, it's like historically over the past 50 years, German remilitarization is obviously something that the rest of Europe has been a bit nervous about. It's sort of the same with, I guess it's like with, you know, Japan in East Asia. Whereas like whenever Japan starts being like, hey guys, wouldn't it be cool if I sort of remilitarized again? And everyone's like,
uh-oh, I've got aircraft carriers again.
Everyone's like, oh, we're not so sure about this, Japan. We're not sure about this one at all.
Meanwhile, I'm over here threatening to get invaded, and I just want to join the European Union. Apparently, that's on the table.
Unfortunately for Canada, you are not geographically part of Europe. Can't even make a case.
We share a border with Denmark.
Sure. As you can see, I share a border with Denmark. Let me in.
We do.
Yeah, true. Hans Island. But yeah, so You Just Can't Do It Too is probably my favorite short. My second favorite short is an adaptation of one of Aaron's comics. It's one of my favorite Aaron comics. It's Desolate Isolation, which is also one of our earliest shorts. And that was sort of when I was starting to get the hang of animating, at least to the degree that I can call myself an animator. And what I love about it is Finland is just such a good character in Polandball. You know, he's a drunk and he's not a people person, you know? And that's, you know, a very common sort of stereotype of Finnish people. And, you know, the idea that he's living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, the punchline pulls the rug out from under you, where he's happy that everybody's dead. He's finally alone. He has peace and quiet.
Yeah, it's a classic. I mean,
and then he drinks his 75% vodka.
Yeah, but no, people have done that with Finland ever since like a decade ago. This is which is fun, because if you look at like actual sort of like just, you know, standard of living and wealth and happiness index or whatever, Finland is actually doing pretty well.
Oh yeah.
So this is one of those stereotypes that historically was more true, but it's not particularly true anymore, but it's just stuck, and that's just how Finland is characterized in Polandball comics.
I've always liked it. I think Finland's a very charming character.
But everyone knows Finland isn't real.
Yeah, this is true. And then rounding out my top three, my third favorite is Enlightenment. This is one about Nepal, and it's not a highbrow joke by any means. It's just Nepal making a bunch of dinosaur noises at the end, because
yes,
Nepal is basically drawn as a dinosaur because it doesn't have a rectangular flag. This is something that's done for a couple of different countries and states in Polandball, where they don't have a rectangular flag or a square flag, so they're drawn as monsters. Ohio and Nepal are the two best examples. The Mamluk Sultanate or Empire is another one, but much lesser used than both Ohio and Nepal. But Enlightenment is a short that, if I were to go back and redo, I would cut a lot of the exposition, because this short did not perform very well, despite me liking it so much, because it has so much build-up. And with shorts and TikToks, you really only have like 2 seconds to grab the attention of the viewer, because they'll just swipe away, right? This is part of like, you know, why young people's attention span is just absolutely shot now. Is like they've been fed so much content on YouTube and TikTok that if they don't like, immediately they just swipe to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So Enlightenment, I would cut out basically the entire like first 10 or 15 seconds where the US is climbing the Himalayas, and I would start with this scene where he sort of slides into frame where you see the monastery in the background. That's the only change I would make, and I think it would have done so much better. It would have been so much more popular, because I really do think that this short deserved to have done better than it did.
It's sad that we have to think that way, because obviously, like, from a creative standpoint, both you and me would agree that that initial, build-up is needed to, like, tell the joke properly. But then it's like everyone's brains are fried nowadays, or like no one has any attention span that goes longer than 10 minutes. It's weird. No, it's like people they enjoy content in different ways nowadays, where it's like what we're doing right now, right? And a podcast is like more than an hour long. There's people out there who love to consume media that way too. So like long form content has also even been sort of on the rise in the last couple of years. Nowadays, when people put out video essays, it's not at all uncommon for them to be maybe like 2 or 3 hours long or something, and they do quite well. But it's just completely different audiences for it, and I think the youths of today, teenagers or whatnot, they consume content in the TikTok fashion of just they want it in 5 seconds or less, or they're just gonna swipe away. And older people gravitate more to longer, more contemplative stuff, which is worrying when you look at like what implications this has for the future of the world.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so those are my top 3. You Just Can't Do It 2, Desolate Isolation, and Enlightenment. It'll be interesting, in maybe like a year's time, we could come back and do another podcast where we sort of update these lists and see if they've changed at all. Because, we're planning on doing a day for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Watch Mojo rank our shorts. They'd probably have Alaska Disaster as the number 1.
Oh, they're just gonna sort by like which ones have the most views, and then they're gonna use that as their top 5 or whatever. It's just gonna be the 5 with the most views. That's good journalism.
Yeah, if we have 300 shorts, I would probably rank it as like 268.
No, it doesn't deserve to be that far down. I would say it's right there in the middle. Personally, is where I would put it. But hey, I will always be thankful for Alaska Disaster putting us on the map.
I mean, at this point, it's got almost 23 million views,
crazy.
That is super crazy. I'm wondering, if I go to YouTube right now and I type in Polandball in the search field and I sort it by view count, what is the most viewed Polandball comic ever made? Oh, god damn it. God damn it.
What is it?
I'm so upset. Alaska Disaster has 22 million views. Then there is another short that has 23 million views, which is about Italy and pineapple on pizza.
Oh, is that the one where they're like fighting in a diner or something?
No, I don't. Maybe. No.
I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen that one.
No. This is made with some VR program or whatever. This seems to be like something completely like just super lazy.
Give it time. Alaska Disaster is unstoppable.
Yeah, we're still starting out here, which is crazy to say,
The one you're thinking of is 20 million views, and that's not a short. It's actually like a normal video, but yeah. But that one's also one of the most viewed ones. Okay, what if I instead use the term countryballs? Oh my god. Okay, there's some real bad stuff here that's like with like, it looks like it's made from clip art and it's on some Indian channel and it's got 33 million views. Well, we're cooked. We can't compete with that. We can't compete with Indian clip art. Well, maybe we can. We can talk about that. There's a feature that YouTube is rolling out, and we haven't really started using it yet, but we're definitely looking into doing it in the future. And that is multi-language content. that you're going to be able to add additional audio tracks to videos. So you can set it to like, here is this video in Spanish, here's this video in German, here's this video in Russian, or whatever. Traditionally, what people have had to do when they have, when they want to release their videos in multiple languages, is that they have to create like a secondary channel or a third channel. So they can upload the same video there, but with a different audio track. And YouTube has been like, you know what? We think this is kind of inefficient and dumb, and kind of forces you to like spread out all of your content and having to game the algorithm even harder. And it's like, no, this is bad. What if you can just add more audio tracks? So they're rolling that out. Not all channels have it yet, but our channel actually does. We have gotten approved for doing that. We just haven't done it with any videos yet, but we definitely wanna get into that. And that's just a case of like finding voice actors, basically, who can voice stuff in different languages. Because I'm thinking, if we can like, I mean, Hindi's got to be the big one, right? If we can like add Indian voice tracks to our videos.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So when we pump them out, like, because the system also works that way, where it's like if someone is like browsing with like Hindi as their browser language or whatever, then that audio track is going to be the default audio track for them when they find it on YouTube. Obviously, this is something I want to get into. But that's going to be difficult. Just finding sources for voice acting in other languages. But if we can do it, we could reach like a whole different audience that we haven't connected with yet.
Oh yeah, there are something like 400 or 500 million Indians that use YouTube monthly. It is by far the single largest national population on YouTube. Not super surprising, given that India is the largest country on the planet. But you would, maybe if you didn't know much about YouTube, you would suspect that it probably has more Americans on it than Indians. Not true. I'm sure it was at one point, earlier in YouTube's history, but today there's a massive market in India for YouTube content. Yeah.
So obviously we're not there yet. But if we can find people who can help us do that, I'm very, very excited about trying that out and seeing what that could do for our channel. That's just a quick little tangent on my side. I just want to talk about it because I'm excited about it.
It will be very cool. And that's one of the things that we can do to sort of involve the greater Polandball community. We've had a number of people express interest or have already recorded lines in a different language for us. I think like Korean and Spanish and Chinese already.
Yes.
So that's really cool because, Polandball has an incredibly international community. I look at our analytics pretty often, and, unsurprisingly, our audience is, there's a plurality of Americans in our audience, right? It's maybe like 30% of our total viewership are Americans, and then like in descending order, it's like British, German, Canadian, like Polish, Indian, something like that. Actually, I think there's more Indian viewers than Polish. But our viewers are really everywhere on the planet. It's just mostly concentrated in English-speaking countries, which is sort of to be expected for an English-speaking channel. The content is almost entirely in English. But the fact that 70% of our audience is outside the US, I think is very different from a lot of YouTube channels that specifically cater to Americans or to the Anglosphere.
Probably yes, but that's just because Polandball is like, it's so global, right? It has the exact same appeal to someone from India or someone from Japan as it would for an American. Probably even more so, because Americans typically don't care all that much about what happens outside of their own borders.
Unfortunately, this is actually an interesting point you touch on, and I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to sort of complain. I think that for whatever country or empire is sort of the top dog in its respective international system, there is a tendency among its populace to sort of take for granted its position and the benefits that are conferred upon it by its sort of primacy in the international system, whether that's the modern day United States or previously the British Empire or, you know, the Roman Empire or the Mongol Empire, right? Like, not necessarily that just because a country or an empire is the top dog, that doesn't necessarily mean that its citizens are enjoying the fruits of empire, right? Certainly wasn't true for the British Empire, right? And it certainly isn't true for a lot of Americans, right? But there are things that benefit a country and its population collectively by being the top dog. The most obvious example for the United States is the fact that the US is the keystone in the global economy. It benefits from a great deal of foreign direct investment and the fact that the US dollar is the global reserve currency of choice, right? For the vast majority of international transactions. And there is no compelling alternative to the US dollar yet. The euro makes up something like 20 or 25% of global commerce. It pales in comparison to the US, which has historically been around 60-70% since the euro was introduced. And that's an economy that's, you know, 2/3 the size of the United States. So, you know, the benefits that Americans reap from the dollar being reserve currency or the US being the most important economy in the global economy are not immediately apparent and they're not intangible, but they are real and they are there, whether or not you're aware of them, you know? And it really takes, you know, a degree of sort of knowledge and education about basic economics and geopolitics and history to sort of understand that. And I don't think the majority or even a plurality of any country's electorate or population at large is really sort of at that level, you know, of understanding.
I think that Elon Musk probably also does not have that sort of understanding, and he's going to replace the US dollar with Bitcoin.
God help us all. If anybody here is watching this, stay away from cryptocurrency. It's incredibly volatile. The people who put out crypto coins, it's a scam 99.9% of the time. If you're ever going to invest in something, you should probably not invest in crypto. That's not financial advice. That's just me talking about how crypto is scary.
You mean the Hawk Tuah girl lied to me?
Might want to exclude that whole spiel so people don't hit us for financial advice or something.
Yeah. Well, no, that's fine. It's fine.
All right.
It's fine. But you were saying about the United States being an empire, but the population not necessarily reaping the benefits of that.
They do. They just don't understand what those benefits are because they're vague, and sort of the ruling class has not sort of explained them in terms that people can understand them. I think there is an assumption that a lot of Americans make today that we're number one, so we will always be number one. We don't have to. The thing about being a superpower is that you have to do things to maintain being a superpower. You can't just rest on your laurels, right? This is sort of getting a little bit more into geopolitics, and we can kind of pull it back to some of our content and Polandball. But something like NATO is so fundamental to American power projection that the collapse of NATO, which is seemingly a real thing, if not an expectation at this point, would do so much irreparable damage to America's status as a superpower, and hence the benefits that the American population gets from global hegemony. It's real, you know? Like, I don't know how to put it in more plain terms, but Europe is a more populous continent than the United States.
Yes.
Right? Collectively. It is the next, like, richest sort of part of the world after North America is Europe. And like the next most technologically advanced. And culturally, the US and Europe are very similar, right? The US is an offshoot of, European cultures. It was a colony. It was a British colony, right? We have very close cultural and linguistic ties and historical ties to Europe. Now, we are not Europe, and much of our population does not have European ancestry. That doesn't mean that we can't have a productive relationship with Europe, right? We share a lot of the same values, you know, liberal democracy being one of them. But I say NATO is so instrumental to American hegemony because Europe is our natural ally. And they are an incredibly potent ally. They are, in effect, something of a sleeping giant because they haven't sort of recognized that collectively they could be a superpower. It's just they don't have the political will to do it, to sort of take that step further and sort of consolidate their political system or their militaries into a more cohesive or singular unit. That being said, because Europe is sort of divided still among, several dozen states, they are dependent on the American security guarantee, which means the US has leverage over them politically and militarily. So because Poland and the Baltic states rely on the American security guarantee, they will defer to the US on a lot of foreign policy issues. It's a way that the US can get Poland and the Baltic states to do something that it might want to do, or vote a certain way in the United Nations or something, right? These are tangible things that benefit American foreign policy and advance American security, right? Like the prevailing sort of notion in American foreign policy since World War II has been it's better to sort of have our forces dispersed elsewhere so that we don't ever have to fight here, right? It's deter enemies first, or would-be enemies, and then if you have to fight them, we would rather fight them in Europe or in Asia than in North America or in the Pacific or the Atlantic, right? The idea is, again, deter potential enemies or rivals. If deterrence fails, then at least you're not fighting in your own backyard, right? So a failure to sort of consolidate NATO and maintain NATO would be really the first significant domino to fall in the collapse of the international system, and I'm very afraid that in the next 4 years that will happen.
You mean in the next month?
It's possible. It's possible. The American foreign and security defense establishment is very aware of the benefit that we reap from NATO, and I can't imagine everyone would be on board with just, all right, it's over. It's so absolutely vital to American security interests to have Europe as a partner, but not just a partner, but as the junior partner in the transatlantic relationship. And Europe benefits from it too, to a degree, right? A lot of the social policies that European states enjoy are because they don't fund their defense as well as the United States does, right? There's only a handful of countries that do. But a country like Portugal or Spain or Italy, they're so far from where a potential conventional conflict would be fought on the European continent that they have sort of rested on their laurels and they've taken their geography for granted. Ireland is another great example. Ireland is a neutral country. It's not part of NATO, but it is in the EU. And historically, the only threat to Ireland has ever been the United Kingdom, the British Empire preceding it. It's not really a threat anymore, right?
Yeah.
And any sort of conceivable invasion of Ireland, who would invade Ireland? Who's capable of invading Ireland besides France, the UK, and the US? And why would they invade Ireland, right? There are benefits that go both ways.
Sweden is the same in that we have always had Finland as a buffer zone, which has made us feel sort of safe.
Even so, though, they only have 4 million people next to the behemoth that is the bloodthirsty Russians.
Yeah, but if there's something we've learned over the past 3 years, is that the Russian military is shit.
It is, but that doesn't mean that they can't do a lot of damage. It's the Russian armed forces are not nearly as capable as people thought they were prior to February of 2022, but they're still more than capable of killing a lot of innocent people, which is what has happened in Ukraine. And despite Ukraine's heroic efforts, they are still losing the war. As much as it pains me to say it, because the four of us on this channel are very staunchly pro-Ukrainian in this conflict. It's a smaller and poorer country than Russia, and they don't have sort of the military legacy that Russia inherited from the Soviet Union. Certainly not the sort of the stockpile of weaponry that Russia inherited. The Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, even less capable than Ukraine in sort of defending themselves. It's unlikely that collectively the Baltic states would be able to fend off a conventional Russian invasion.
Dude, with the way things are going, just give it a week and we're gonna start finding dead Russian soldiers that have American equipment.
God, I hope not. This is why Timelines was such a poignant video. We live in the bad timeline because Harambe was killed.
I saw some Reddit comments talking about that where they're oh, Russia won't be able to afford American weaponry. They're not gonna buy. Trump isn't gonna sell any stuff to Russia. And I'm like, no, he's not gonna sell it to Russia. He's gonna give it away to Russia.
Yeah.
It's part of his wonderful deal making.
We live in scary times, man.
He's gonna supply them for free.
Scary times.
It is, but I'm actually choosing to be hopeful.
Easy for you to say.
It's not easy for me to say, but
They're threatening to annex us.
I know. Look, it's not looking great for Europe either, but I am choosing to be hopeful, and I was actually thinking of throwing that out already as sort of like maybe the topic for the next podcast, because this one has been sort of focused on discussing the shorts that we put out on the channel or whatever. It would be fun to like veer more sort of into geopolitics and future predictions, and just maybe there's a point to be had about a discussion about that too, of like, how do you stay sane in the world we are currently living in, right?
That seems like it'd be a fun topic.
Yeah, but that is going to be a different podcast, because I think we've already run a bit over the time that I had like planned on doing for this first one, but we've had fun. It's been a fun chat, so I've been enjoying like just going over a bit.
Yeah, this was great. I had a good time.
Oh yeah. Well, this time next year, I'll either be living in Sweden or I'll be fucking burying Yanks. So we'll see.
I think that that's the perfect line to end it on.
No offense, koleye.
No. You're good. If the US invades Canada, then we've got bigger problems globally.
I'm gonna say that no matter how far gone the US is, I genuinely think that the military would refuse to follow that order.
No, I will say I don't think the military would be on board for an unprovoked invasion of Canada. That it's just so fucking stupid. I think they'd refuse those orders. Maybe not like the top dog, but the people under them. But hey, like we thought maybe this would be the same thing, but with Russian generals and soldiers, like Ukrainians and Russians they have a shared history and culture, and linguistically are very related, and yet despite them being something like proverbial brothers, Russia still invaded.
Yeah, but that's different.
So,
that's different. All of these satellite countries, be it Georgia or Ukraine or Kazakhstan or whatever, ethnic Russians have always looked down on them. They've never seen them as equals.
There has always been an element of Russian imperialism that has persisted in a lot of the post-Soviet states. So,
no, I mean we say this, but like the hate campaign against Canada has already started.
Yeah, apparently, but it's artificial, like compared to sort of long-standing animosities that exist between various ethnic groups and nationalities in Eastern Europe. I'm not saying that those aren't artificial, because hating another group of people for no substantive reason is artificial, right? But my point here is that like there are animosities that run very deep among various nationalities in Eastern Europe that don't exist between the US and Canada, right? Like, sure, you guys burned down the White House, but that was ages ago. All right, should we close it out? I've got to get going.
Yeah. So with the time differences and whatever, it's actually like super, super late in the night where I'm at, and y'all got stuff you gotta attend to as well, I would imagine.
I've got to make some shorts.
Ooh. So thank you both of you for participating in the reboot, like episode 1 of the new Polandball podcast with the new brand new flashy studio and everything. And we're gonna do a genuine effort to keep this going. Unless it gets like 0 views. In that case, why make the effort?
Yeah.
No, but if it works out, if people like it, and if people want to hear more, and it's like, oh, this clicks, this is vibes, this is fun to make or whatever, then we're gonna try to keep it up and come up with like new fun topics every week to not get it stale.
Works for me.
Next time we'll have CSM on.
We just gotta bully him into
we can
time.
We can switch things up. I would imagine that there's gonna be different constellations of us from episode to episode. Sometimes it'll be me and Aaron.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes it'll be koleye and Aaron. Sometimes it'll be me and CSM. Whatever. Sometimes we'll have guests. I'm thinking, you know, we can be creative with that.
We should end the podcast by all of us singing 2 Days into Belgium.
No, we're gonna get
together.
We're gonna get copyright struck by CSM.
He wouldn't dare.
All right. Thank you guys for joining in, and thank you all of our listeners for listening to us shoot the shit for I mean, at this point, almost close to 2 hours. That's a good chunk of podcast right there.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. The big three.
Yeah, that is true. That is the big three. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you guys next time for something completely different.